Hello, welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our full review of the Brooks Ghost Trail. So the Ghost Trail is a new addition to the Brooks lineup, and it is essentially an off-road version of the Brooks Ghost 17 road running shoe. So you get some changes to the upper to make it a bit more protective. You get obviously a better outsole that can grip on more surfaces. The Ghost Trail is not really built for very technical trails or for really heading into deep mud or anything like that, but it's meant to be an accomplished all-terrain or road-to-trail shoe that can take you into city parks, onto slightly muddy paths, gravel roads, that kind of thing, to give you a really versatile option that you can use for running on a range of terrains. It costs £135 or $150, the same price as the Brooks Ghost 17. It's a little bit heavier thanks to the redesigned outsole, weighing 312 grams or 11 ounces in a UK 9. You've got a lower drop on the Ghost Trail as well compared to the road shoe. It has an 8mm drop with a stack height of 36.5mm at the heel, 28.5mm at the forefoot. When it comes to the upper on the Ghost Trail, you've got a tighter weave than you have on the road running shoe to try and keep debris out when you're running on kind of loose surfaces. You've got some 3D printed overlays on the shoe, especially around the forefoot, to provide some extra structure and protection around the toes when you're on the trails and maybe might kick into a stick or a stone or something like that. You've also got a pretty significant heel counter to add some structure at the back of the shoe. You've got a DNA Loft V3 midsole, the same as on the Ghost 17. This is a nitrogen infused EVA foam that's nice and poppy and responsive and has proven pretty durable in our testing with lots of different Brooks shoes. You have got that slightly different geometry with the trail version of the shoe with the lower drop, but the midsole does deliver a pretty similar experience to what you get from the road shoes. Then you've got a Trail Tack green rubber outsole. You've got 3mm lugs on the shoe designed to be able to grip well in the wet and on light trails, so this will also be a good shoe for those kind of autumn and winter runs on pavements where it's covered in like loose stuff like fallen leaves and that kind of thing. And then you have flex screws on this outsole to ensure it doesn't become too stiff down there with all this extra rubber you have on it compared to the road shoe. When it comes to the fit of the Brooks Ghost Trail, I have my normal running shoe size here, which is a UK 9 US 10. That's the same size I use across Brooks' entire range, and I've got a good fit with this shoe. I'm someone who's in between sizes a little bit, so looking at US sizes, I'm in between a 9.5 and a 10, so it's a pretty roomy shoe for me, the Ghost 17. I can maybe go half a size down and it'll be fine for me, but it does fit true to size and how I'd expect it to fit for a UK 9 US 10, so I would stick with your normal size in general. The fit is pretty comfortable as well. Like, you've got a bit of padding around the back of the shoe and quite a stiff internal heel counter, but it wasn't something that I really noticed or found irritating on the run. A good hold around the heel and midfoot. You've got the extra structure at the front of the shoe, which is obviously a benefit on the trails. But all round, the upper wasn't something I noticed too much in the run, which is pretty much what you want from an upper, and it was comfortable for me in my normal running shoe size. So I've run about 50k in the Brooks Ghost Trail, and I've used it for a range of daily training runs. I did my long run in it at the weekend. I've also used it for an easy to steady progression run. I've got a classic daily training run for me where I start nice and relaxed and go through the gears a little bit towards the lower end of tempo paces by the end, and some just general easy runs. And it did arrive at the perfect time for me here in the UK, where I've just had to stop really using road shoes in my local forest, which is pretty well groomed trails all round, but it gets pretty wet and muddy in there, and even the main trails get a bit slick at this time of year, and it means that for my general daily training runs, I don't tend to do them so much in the forest anymore if I have to use road shoes. So getting a shoe like this, which is a road shoe with slightly better grip, slightly better upper, is really perfect, and I was able to head back into the forest for all my runs in the Ghost Trail. Like, the grip's been really good, and it does deliver that classic road daily trainer experience, just with that little bit of extra grip, so you can go onto areas that aren't so fun to be in road shoes anymore. Like, you can still go in road shoes on these kind of trails, but you're going to be slippering at some points because there's a bit too much mud. You're going to wreck the road shoes because it's pretty dirty in there, and in general it just provides a little bit of an upgrade in experience. I do like this category of shoe for that, because it's nice to be able to do your daily training runs on that kind of mixed trail or go into a forest and that kind of thing, I find. So there are a few of these shoes out there now where brands have kind of moved away from making a dedicated all-terrain or road to trail shoe in their lineup, but instead just made a trail version of a popular road shoe. So like the Pegasus Trail, I think there's a Nova Blast Trail, Saucony Ride have a trail version of their shoe. And then there are more dedicated lines like the Hoka Challenger, which I'm a really big fan of, that again offer this kind of all-terrain appeal where you can run on the roads comfortably in the shoe, but then get a little bit more grip and protection when you are off-road. And the Ghost Trail certainly does deliver a very familiar experience experience, I would say, if you are familiar with the Brooks range and the Ghost shoe in particular. You've got a lower drop here than you have with the Ghost 17, but the ride feel is very similar for me. You get that kind of classic Brooks snap through. They don't really go for big rockers on these shoes. The max versions of their shoes have rockers, but the standard versions don't, so you get that snappy ride from heel to toe. The foam in the midsole is comfortable, it's supportive, it's not the softest or bounciest or liveliest material, but it does give you a little bit of pop off the toes. And on my long run in the shoe, I got that classic sensation I always get from Brooks shoes, which is that the foam stays exactly the same throughout the course of the run. It doesn't bottom out, it doesn't flatten down. By the end of the run, even if you've been pounding up and down hills, it gives you that same consistent level of response and bounce which you get with this DNA Loft V3 across the whole range of Brooks shoes that use it. And it's a good experience all round. Like, it's not the most exciting foam on the market. When I was doing the run where I moved to slightly faster paces, you don't get that much response and liveliness off the toes. It's not the most energy returning shoe in that sense, but it does deliver a really nice balance ride, and it works well when you are off-road because it's a fairly stable material, DNA Loft V3. It's not too soft and mushy, and Brooks hasn't had to put a load of extra stability elements into the Ghost Trail to make it suitable for these runs. Because of that, you just get a fairly firm base to push against, and it's reliable when you're on uneven ground or on narrow single tracks, that kind of thing. And yeah, all around just delivers a pretty nice experience, very much akin to what you get from the Brooks shoes on the road. Like, they're not the most exciting shoes on the market, not the lightest shoes on the market either, but you do get what feels like a durable, sturdy base to run on, and you can do a decent range of runs in the Ghost Trail. Like, I wouldn't be going out to do really fast stuff in the forest in it, but it could be a pretty good long distance trail racer if you are expecting to encounter a range of terrain. But yeah, it's not as exciting as some other shoes, even in this category. Something like the Hoka Challenger 8, I think, has a more rockered, smooth and soft and fun ride, but the Brooks is maybe a little bit more stable, I would say. The grip's been really good for me as well throughout my runs in the forest. So I've done some sections on kind of wet, stony paths, lots of slightly muddy bits, slick paths. There's one path in particular where they've replaced what was just kind of a grassy path with this layer of dirt, and I thought they were going to then put something else on top of it, because now it's just a dirt path that immediately it's quite a smooth dirt path, and as soon as it rains it gets a slick top to it that makes it much slipperier than it was when it's just a grass path. But yeah, the Brooks Ghost Trail handled that really well. Went through some single track winding through trees and that kind of stuff, lots of fallen leaves, dirty sections, and yeah, it's handled it all really well in terms of grip. The shoe is pretty disgusting now, so I'm not holding it now. I'll get some cutaways to show off the mud on it, but yeah, it does work for this purpose really well. And then to and from the forest as well, it's been quite wet here lately. The pavements have been slick, lots of fallen leaves, just a really reliable level of grip that just gives you a little bit of peace of mind at this time of year, when if you are heading out for daily training runs, you're starting to wonder, am I going to mess up my road shoes? Are they going to have enough grip? It's a really good option because it does just pick up all those runs really well, offering enough grip, offering a bit of protection, meaning you can go to your normal route. So like, often I'll be like, about to head out the door going, can I go in the forest today for a run? If I go and do my little loop, is it going to be too slippery? With this shoe, it doesn't really matter. You can just go in there and do it because it does have that good grip for what still feels like quite a road focused shoe, in that it is comfortable for long stretches on the road as well. So overall, I'd say that the Brooks Ghost Trail performed more or less exactly as you'd expect a version of the Ghost for the trails would. You've got a pretty standard feeling Brooks ride, even with that slightly lower drop. You've got that nice balanced midsole that gives you a little bit back. It isn't too soft and squishy. It's still pretty comfortable. Isn't the liveliest though. Isn't the most bouncy or responsive. And then you've got this really well designed outsole, I think, that grips well on wet pavements. Will offer you that grip on light trails as well. Gravel track. Feels like quite a nice durable material as well. No wear and tear even with some hard sections and stony sections. And it even bites into a little bit of mud. So, if you are a Ghost user or a glycerin user and have hit this point of the year where some of the routes you like to run are no longer that suitable to be run in road shoes, you're starting to slip around or you're ripping them up, you want to maybe go on some gravel tracks instead of some flat pavements and that kind of thing, it's a really solid option, I would say. No, this isn't a full trail shoe. It's not going to give you the level of kind of protection and grip you need for more technical trails where you're on very rocky tracks, or you need a bit more kind of nimbleness and agility, or really deep mud when you want something like an Innovate shoe that will bite into it with deeper lugs, that kind of thing. But I do think it's got a fairly protective at bottom to it though, in terms of protecting the bottom of your foot when you are on rocky ground. So I think it will handle mild rocky trails pretty well. And in terms of using it as a daily trainer, I think it is best for easy runs. I pretty enjoyed it most for my long run. It was pretty protective, it was comfortable, you could move a bit faster when required, and that easy to steady run, clocking along for kind of 3:45 a k for 4k felt okay in the shoe. But yeah, it's not one that I'd really consider a short racing shoe for off-road races. It will do it okay, and it might be a reasonable park run shoe depending on what your park run's actually like as well. I think a pretty good park run shoe. Again, it's not going to be the fastest shoe out there, but it will give you that good grip, and it isn't really a slouch, I would say. Comes to this area of the market, I'm a really big fan of the Hoka Challenger 8. It is a bit softer and less stable than the Brooks Ghost 16, but I really like the rocker on it. It really suits me quite well, the style of that shoe, in the same way that the Clifton 10 does and the Arahi 8 does actually from Hoka. I think the geometry of those shoes just really work very well with my gait, and I find the Challenger 8 very comfortable to cruise around in. I think it's got really good grip as well, and would be the kind of shoe I'd be able to use for this kind of run. I did some those easy to steady style runs in that shoe as well, and it felt a bit better for them. So I think the Ghost 17 is slightly more stable, like I say, and some will appreciate the slightly firmer ride it has, especially when you are on the trails, but I prefer the ride of the Challenger 8 as an all-terrain option. That would be the one I'd go for. But the Brooks Ghost Trail, is a good shoe, and I think it's one that will hold some appeal, especially here in the Northern Hemisphere, where the trails you might normally run in road shoes are starting to get a little bit dicey. It's also got some appeal as a solid hiking shoe and fast hiking shoe, good walking shoe for holidays as well because of that extra grip. That's our review of the Brooks Ghost Trail. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.